Welcome. We're here with Phil Andrews. Now, Phil has a number of titles. Most relevant right now is he's the treasurer of the Pan Am Weightlifting Federation. As of February, while everybody else is going through rough times in 2020, you're adding more and more titles. Welcome.
Something like that.
Now, tell me, I wasn't at the meeting in February, but I understand that there was a push for change. This organization, the Pan Am Federation, has had the same people in charge for a long time, and thank you for your service. But there was a move to change. Did you see that coming?
Yeah, I think we saw that probably as much as a year or maybe two ago, a number of us. Ultimately, they weren't bad people who were in charge of the federation whatsoever. Just weren't doing as much as we would have liked to see to develop the Pan Am region. Both those countries who are already competent in weightlifting, but also perhaps especially the Caribbean and Central America, where weightlifting is not quite as strong as it is in the South and the North. And bringing those countries forward. Plus, if you can't get something done in 12 years, there was a feeling that perhaps 12 years is enough.
Okay. Now, this is a big change. Jose Quinones is the new president. You're the new treasurer. Is this the first time you have ever been involved in weightlifting in an elected role?
I suppose it is, yes.
Yeah. Well, congratulations then.
I've always been employed.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
By many different organizations, and that's something we won't get into, but right now you do have another hat or five that you wear. Right now you're also the interim deputy director general of the International Weightlifting Federation.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So back to the Pan Am. Tell me about what has happened since February. What changes have we already seen, or if anything, and what we can look forward to?
Well, of course, the biggest thing that's happened since, Richard, is the coronavirus. So that's, I think we had best laid plans of mice and men that have gone a little bit up in smoke. The intent is very much still there. We put together a very detailed, if you like, agenda of what we were going to do in the Pan Am region, including developing the Caribbean, as we already mentioned, developing Central America, how we were going to work with camps, etc. A lot of that's still happening. We're planning a camp for next year. Puerto Rico is going to partner on that. First time we've had something in Puerto Rico in a long time. And that's part of our ethos, if you like, is to make sure it's not always the big countries, and I mean this with the greatest of respect, Ecuador, Colombia, USA, who are always hosting events and putting on events and reaping the benefits from those same events. We want to see Barbados, we want to see Trinidad, we want to see St. Vincent, we want to see Canada, we want to see different nations involved in the sport, both from a perspective of the athlete, but also from hosting camps, hosting events. But of course, COVID has meant that we're all confined to our offices or our homes in a lot of the continent. Not least that the Pan Am region really should have probably been a very serious region at the Olympic Games this year and will be again next year. And of course, we sit here talking on early July, and I don't know about you, but I should be getting on the plane pretty shortly here to Tokyo, and that won't be happening. So the pace is less fast than we would like in getting out physically into doing some of those development programs, developing some of those regions. But we have done a number of online seminars. I think Jose has worked particularly hard in getting some of those up and running. He's made good use of his time confined to his house, as has William Pena and Gustavo Malgore and others on the board who have really worked pretty hard to get things up and running. We did one technical officials seminar. We've done an anti-doping seminar. Now, obviously, the Pan Am Online Cup is happening. But there's things that are happening, not quite what we planned, because we didn't plan for coronavirus. We planned to have, it's now July, would have been through the Pan Am seniors in the last qualification event. We've still got one committee member to be elected because there was a tie in the election, so that's got to happen. So there's things we're behind on, but there's also other things that have happened because of coronavirus that we're in front of. And we've also committed to help people with coronavirus-related activities. The US won't be one of those countries. We said that we would look after ourselves and therefore give that money to the other countries when we were going through the election process. So it's been an interesting few months, and I've sort of jumped around a little bit here,
Yeah.
but it really has been, the intent is still very much what we said we were going to do, which is projects that benefit the continent, not necessarily one federation or other, and projects that develop the continent, particularly in those areas where we've not historically been as strong, places like Belize, Barbados, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and bringing up the Caribbean, bringing up Central America, and indeed strengthening those countries who are already strong: Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, the USA, and I have to say Canada.
Now, one last one here for you before we have to go back to the competition and the clean and jerk. The 2020 Pan American Senior Championships are still being held. But they're being held in 2021, a few months before the 2021 Pan American Champion. Was that a difficult decision? And was that, I know I don't want to know too much about what happens at the board table and who says what and that kind of thing, but was that, it's an interesting idea to still hold the championship, but just not in a different year. Was that a difficult decision to come to?
Not particularly, because the 2020 Olympic Games will be held in 2021. And the qualifying period will end on April the 30th, 2021, in the same way it would have done this year. And Santo Domingo held the rights already to host that championship. So it just made sense to put it at the end of the qualifying period for the Olympic Games to which it was originally attributed. But the downside for federations, or I guess the upside or the downside, whichever way you look at it, is we will have a 2020 Pan American Championship in April. And then we will have a 2021 Pan American Championship later in the year. So there's two bites of the cherry, one for Olympic qualification and one simply to call yourself the Pan Am champion, which is, of course, a high honor. Exactly right. So, but on the same time, you might have to compete twice where you might have competed once before. So it's certainly going to be an odd coming year and a half in sport, right the way through to the end of 21, I think, before we see semblance of normality in Olympic sport.
Speaking of an odd 2021, you do have a lot of things going on with the IWF, with USAW, which you are the CEO of, and we thank you very much for taking the time during this Pan Am Online Cup. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks. Cheers, Roger.